Welcome back to the channel, guys. I am the Drunken Goth, and today we have another Starfield video. Now, I've received a couple of requests about what went into the building of the Daedalus ship in Starfield, and obviously there's a couple of other Stargate ones that I've done as well. So I thought we'd chuck it all together in one video and just take a look at the Daedalus build, the Aurora build and the O'Neill build. So here we are at Neon Ship Services, and let's dive straight into it with the first one. So first up we have a familiar one from the last Starfield video, the Daedalus. Now I've got a couple of images on screen there showing you what it was originally like in the show. Now obviously you can get them close but not perfect with the tools you're given in Starfield. The parts that I've used for the most part are Stroud Eklund and a few of the Tayo parts. And we're going to start off just going around, just showing you all the different angles. Obviously it has advanced a little bit since the last video, but I know there was a couple of people who requested to see what went into the build, so we're going to start taking a few bits off. The Stroud Eklund cowling, and you can see we've got the Tayo engineering bay in the side. Take off the fuel tanks there and get rid of the computer core bay on the top. Now what this reveals underneath is a companionway, and the engineering bay that is just underneath there as well. Now the 302 bays, or what should be the 302 bays, are linked by a companionway. Get rid of those battle stations there as well. Obviously I've hidden the grav drive and the reactor in the middle out of the way, as they're a little bit of an awkward shape, size, profile that would ruin the silhouette if they were put anywhere else really. Now with this cockpit I went for that one. There is other ones in the game that offer a better profile for the ship, but they limit the visibility, and of course this has still got to be practical as well. So as you can see, with some of that top section stripped down, we've got the all-in-one berth on the side with a cargo pod at the front and the engine at the back. There is actually a mid-bracer above the companionway linking the 302 bays to the main body of the ship. And that gives you a sort of rough view of what is underneath all of that top section. So again, if you wanted to build something like this yourself, you've got a rough idea now of what is underneath all of that. Obviously the Tayo bays are a lot more rounded on the outside, so they were good for creating the underneath profile, just keeping the silhouette as close as possible. Same with the top as well, with them being slightly more rounded with the Tayo parts. They just make the silhouette a little bit better. Obviously I went for Deimos for the front wings and added the turrets to that as well, slightly reminiscent of where the railgun emplacement should be. Landing gears are Nova Galactic, as they again fit with the general profile, and then of course the front, which was quite difficult to do, I've added that gun turret on the top there just to try and give it that familiar nose shape that we know from the Daedalus. Engines have been upgraded since, because I didn't realise some of the parts were level locked, so obviously as I've advanced through the levels I've gone for bigger engines now, which do improve the mobility. But again, a lot of what I've tried to do with this build is keep it practical for the game, so that it doesn't make it unusable, because at the end of the day, if you're going to do it, you want to be able to use it and it be effective in battle when you're transporting resources, etc. It's still got to be a playable thing to do. But overall, it does keep evolving, it does keep changing ever so slightly, but it's always going to with a game like this. But at the same time, I'm pretty happy with it. It's very usable and it's good. As far as I can tell, it's good. So next up we have the O'Neill class Asgard ship. I have put some original Asgard ship pictures up on the screen there. Now this has become almost a hybrid of the Beliskner and the O'Neill class. Unfortunately, a lot of the parts, you need certain things to make it usable and practical in the game, and it has been a little bit of an annoyance trying to get it right. Now the bridge obviously is more for a practical purpose. It is far too big for the silhouette, but I do think it's a better view from when you're in the cockpit. Again, grav drive and reactor hidden inside the main structure, as again they're just a bit awkward to try and mask. We've gone with Stroud Eklund and Deimos this time with the different bays. A lot of cowling down the outside. Now we're removing that cockpit, and as you can see, as soon as that's out of the way, the profile of the ship, the silhouette does look a lot better. This is the biggest annoyance, docking ports, because they have to be on an outer edge of the ship, and when you've got things like the big towers that you see on the Asgard ships, it makes it virtually impossible to put them anywhere and still keep the profile, still make the ship look good, because as you can see there, it does look a lot cleaner, a lot better without that docking port. And I mean, I'd like to think that hopefully extendable, like long-range extendable docking ports could be introduced to the game, or even putting the docking ports on the bottom of the ship, because obviously if you're docking with something in space, you don't really need it to be somewhere on the side or top. You could have it on the bottom. So a lot of the habs, again, Stroud Eklund, again with the cowling at the front. I did toy with the idea a couple of times of extending the cowling, which I will demonstrate as well, as it does give the ship a better profile. But again, keeping things practical, it's got to be usable in the game as well. So there we go, the grav drive and the reactor hidden. We've got all-in-one berths and fuel tanks, and then control stations, battle stations on the top. Side caps just here, and the Nova Galactic weapon mounts, which again, I know there was some protrusions for weapons etc on the ships in the show, but it was the only real place I could sort of get them to look relatively close and relatively like they should be there. Deimos obviously for the two towers either side of the battle station and control stations. Again, they don't really look as close as you'd want them to be, but it's as close as you can really get them with the tools you give them. So if we whip these cowlings off the side, the Astroneering cowlings, by going for Stroud Eklund cowlings here, if we add them to the front, this I think probably would give it a bit more of the O'Neill's silhouette and profile. But again, the only reason why I've not gone down this route is because obviously adding mass decreases the mobility, and although that profile does look quite good there, as soon as you add the bridge that I've taken away for the moment, that spoils the profile completely. It makes it look completely out of proportion. Colour wise, I've tried to change it all so it's that distinctive silvery grey that you get on the later Asgard ships. Obviously the Beliskner was like that dark purple sort of colour, but the later ships are always this grey silver, which I've tried to get close as well, so it does help to give you the impression that it is an Asgard ship. And obviously we're just going to put that horrendous tower of companionways back on, which really is disappointing, but again, needs to be done. so that it's usable in game. So that is the rough idea of what we did to build the O'Neill, and we're just going to now take it off-world, take it into space, and just include a couple of shots of it flying around, just so you can see what it's like in space. To be honest, I think in some of the shots when you're taking off and landing, it does look a lot better than when you're walking around in the shipbuilder. Obviously that horrendous tower in the middle I really hate, but again, has to be done. And surprisingly, seeing as this was built mainly with aesthetics, with the look of it in mind, it does actually handle particularly well. And obviously the Daedalus is always my go-to, but when I first started using it just to see how it did actually perform, it fast became something that was one of my favourites. So I was like, yeah, bloody hell, this is quite effective in battle. So here we go, quick shot of it landing on a planet, and it doesn't look too bad. Obviously that reactor at the back, unfortunately the one with the most power, is also the one that looks the worst in my opinion. But again, once it's touched down, it doesn't look too bad really. So here we are, landed back down on Neon, and we are going to move on to the next one. So next we have the Atlantean battleship. A few pictures there on screen of what it's like in the show. Again, this one is, I've tried to get it as close as you can, but again working with the tools you've got, and that horrible docking port stuck on the side is a constant annoyance. So while we're going around, we'll just take that out of the way. Now the Aurora's been a bit of a head scratcher when I've been trying to figure out exactly how to do it. Obviously there's not a great deal of parts that are very friendly to getting it right, and the engine part at the back, that has been the greatest stress, trying to get that as close as possible. I think you've got it really, in this you've got it as close as you can. Engine's not too bad, but again it's that top piece which I had to go for Hope Tech parts, and although they're not great, it's not bad really. A lot of the habs in this one are by Hope Tech, as they have a lot more of a distorted appearance from the outside. They look a lot more technical on the outside, and as we know, the Atlantean battleships were never really that smooth looking from the outside. Almost like the Daedalus, they have a lot of features, a lot of sort of pipe work, very structural looking from the outside. Moving around to the front, I've tried my best here just to try and get it as close as it can be. Again, it's with the tools you're given, that's all you can really do. And of course at the same time, on top of all this, you're trying to keep it as usable as possible, because there isn't much point in just having it there thinking, oh yeah, I've got one of those in my ship collection. With it being Starfield, with it being this type of game, you want to go out and use it. So it's got to be practical, it's got to be usable at the same time. So now we've had a good look round it, let's slap that horrible docking port back on, and please Bethesda, or please modders, find a way to get rid of that so you don't have to stick it in awkward places. And we are back to looking around the outside of the ship, and again, not too far away, the general silhouette is okay. So back to ship services, and we are going to board the Aurora and take it out for a spin. Now it's been quite surprising because this, like the O'Neill, mainly designed with the aesthetics in mind, but with obviously some practicality to using it in the game. It surprised me with this one as well that it actually handles really well, and it is actually quite good in a fight situation. And it did surprise me massively because everything was kind of out of proportion, it's underpowered, it's not got that many weapons because they spoilt the silhouette of the ship, but it is very effective. So we are going to touch down on a random planet and just give you an idea of the silhouette and the look of the ship as it lands and takes off. Obviously some of the best shots are the transition screens, the loading screens, when you transition from in atmosphere to outer atmosphere, and it does give you a bit of a better impression. Obviously some of the angles aren't that flattering, but again, with the tools you're given, all you can really do is try and get it as close as possible. So looking around the outside, again, as close as you can really get in the game. Obviously scale as well, it should be a lot bigger, but again, you have to work with what you're given. But as it takes off, not too bad of a shot, and it does, as it drifts off into the distance, give you that impression of the Aurora. So back to ship services, and that is it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like on it, please subscribe to the channel, and if you've got any suggestions, any changes you would make, please leave them in the comments, or if you've managed to do any of the other Stargate ships, please by all means let me know. I'd love to see some of the other designs. That is it for today, guys. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.